If you're someone that gets painful cramps often, then chances are very high that you're redoing this one thing every single day and it's causing all your cramps. And it seems like no matter what you do, you're always going to be dealing with these painful cramps. Well, there's a good reason for that, and it's most likely because of this one daily habit that most people do and even realize they're redoing. Every time that you drink plain water, especially if it's cold, well, this sudden increase in water intake triggers a shock state. It's also why some people get cramps after drinking a lot of water during the day and then lay down to go to bed. Now, it's important to mention that not everyone will experience cramps when they drink too much water, but it's definitely something that you want to look out for because it could be the exact reason why you're still having trouble with cramps. That's because everyone's individual needs will vary depending on their activity levels. Instead, you may want to switch to mineral water or add electrolyte powder to your water to replace those lost minerals. And if you do decide to go with electrolyte powder, such as not getting enough exercise, being overweight, you don't want to drink too much and throw off your electrolyte levels, wearing tight clothing or shoes, then click on this video right here. I'll see you next time. First, you need to understand why you're getting the cramps in the first place. There's usually one of three reasons. 1. You're exercising and your muscles are actually working. 2. You're sitting or standing in one position for way too long. Or 3. You're dehydrated, having poor circulation and certain medical conditions. However, drinking too much water, especially if it's cold, is definitely something that you want to look out for. Make sure you pick one that's actually balanced and contains a good amount of potassium, along with magnesium and a little bit of calcium. Potassium is the main mineral that you want to focus on here, since it helps to balance out sodium levels and prevents muscle cramping. Magnesium is another key mineral that can help to relax your muscles and prevent cramping. And finally, calcium plays an important role in muscle contraction and can help to reduce cramping as well, their climate, and even their overall health. So you may want to cut back on your alcohol intake or drink in moderation if you're currently struggling with cramps. The same goes for caffeine, because drinking too much coffee or energy drinks can also dehydrate you and lead to an electrolyte imbalance if you're not replacing the fluids that you're losing. However, a good rule of thumb is to drink enough water to keep your thirst out. That way you're not overhydrating yourself and triggering those electrolyte imbalances. If it's pale or clear, you're probably drinking enough water. However, if it's dark yellow, you may need to drink more water. Also, you can do a little test where you take your finger and push down into the center of your upper thigh. If the dimple remains for a few seconds after you lift your finger up, then you're probably well hydrated. However, if the dimple doesn't form or quickly dissipates, you may need to drink more water, which then triggers your kidneys to release more potassium, magnesium, and other essential electrolytes into your urine. And because you didn't replenish these minerals back into your body, this leads to an imbalance between these key minerals, which results in your muscles cramping up while you're sleeping. Your body will go into what's called a shock state. This triggers a sympathetic nervous system response and causes your heart to start beating faster. Drinking water that's too cold can also trigger those same sympathetic nervous system responses in your body and lead to an electrolyte imbalance as well. For example, in one case study that was conducted, we saw a triathlete who had severe exercise-induced muscle cramps, and he was able to resolve them simply by increasing the temperature of his water from 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That's because when you drink really cold water, it causes a big change in your body temperature. This leads to the constriction of your blood vessels, which makes your body think that it needs to work harder to maintain its core temperature. This extra effort can eventually lead to muscle fatigue and cramping. It increases your blood pressure, and it also tells your kidneys to get ready to excrete any excess fluid and electrolytes, especially if it's cold, and how it can actually be causing your cramps. Let's talk about exactly how much water you should be drinking per day. This is great if you've just worked out and you're sweating, but it becomes a problem when you're drinking too much water, especially if it's cold, when you're not actually sweating. So if you want to learn what this one habit is and how to fix it so you can stop dealing with cramps, what is the no? One complaint when it comes to leg cramps or Charlie horses? And out of over 1,000 responses, the no one answer was actually drinking too much water. Now, I know that probably doesn't make sense, and you might be thinking, hey, why would drinking more water cause my body to cramp up? Well, it actually has everything to do with the minerals in the water that you're drinking. Then stay tuned. I'm here to help you. Now, if you've been struggling with random muscle cramps, especially at night, in fact, we did a poll recently where we asked people, see, our muscles need a good amount of minerals, specifically potassium, magnesium, and a little bit of calcium in order to function optimally. But the problem happens when there's an imbalance between these minerals, especially when it comes to potassium and magnesium. In fact, a deficiency in either one of these minerals can lead to cramping, but the main culprit here is the loss of potassium. This can happen for many different reasons, but the most common reason is by drinking too much plain water without minerals. Let me explain. For example, let's say you drank 2 liters of plain water throughout the day, and then you laid down to go to sleep. This is why we see a lot of athletes who tend to drink a lot of plain water before bed end up getting bad cramps. And it's not just drinking too much water that can cause cramps. So now that you know the importance of not drinking too much water, well, there's no magic number when it comes to how much water you should be drinking per day. The other thing you can do is simply cut back on the amount of plain water that you're re-drinking. Now, it's also worth mentioning that drinking alcohol can dehydrate you and lead to cramping as well. Of course, there are many other habits that can cause cramps now. If you're looking for a simple trick to determine how hydrated you are, you can check your urine color. Just remember, you want to find the right balance when it comes to water intake. Now, if you're currently struggling with cramps and you want to learn about the top 3 nutrients that can help you get rid of them fast, do you want to know the 3 best vitamins to get rid of cramps? Do you want to learn more about the 3 best vitamins for your cramps? Click here.